You're listening to The Jacob Valk Show. He's breaking down the latest and greatest in sports as only he can. Follow him on Twitter at RealJacobValk. Here he is, Jacob Valk.
Sports fans, welcome to another edition of the Jacob Valk Show. I am Jacob Valk. And at the end of this show, you're going to get the interview that I did with Ron Blomberg, the author of a book on his friendship with Thurman Munson. That was a really fun chat, let me tell you. It's kind of funny. I'll let you know how the sausage was made a little bit. I had the interview scheduled for 5 p.m. yesterday. So I called Boomer at 5 p.m. He says, "Hey Jacob, is it okay if we push it back to 5:45? Sure, no problem. That was perfectly fine. I call him back at 5:45. He says, "Jacob, I only have 20 minutes with you." So I have a list of 13 questions that I want to ask him. 20 minutes for 13 questions. That's not going to work. So, what can I say? I have to say, okay. I said we can push it back. He said, no, let's do it now. It'll be fine. So we got going. We cut the fat a little bit before that. So, the 20 minutes, I'm thinking, is more like 15. How on earth am I going to do this? So I started combining questions, excluding questions altogether. I ended up asking him 7 questions. Or, let me rephrase, 7 planned questions that I had written out. Alright, to all aspiring podcasters, radio hosts, TV show hosts, whatever. Plan out your interview questions. It doesn't need to be gospel, but you should know what you want to talk about before it's showtime. As the interview progressed, 20 minutes became 25, then 30. It ended up going on for 50 minutes. Now, it was fantastic, okay? I loved talking to him. Alright, I hung up the phone feeling very accomplished. Like, I asked what I wanted to ask. I left no stone unturned. I did my job. But that's why there were only 7 planned questions. I don't know if he had anything else planned that he no-showed for to stay on with me. I don't know if he had another interview. He said he did. He said he had like a live interview at, I think it was 6 o'clock or 6:15, something like that. Then it hit 6:20, and he's still on the phone with me. So hey, I loved our chat. Ron, if you're listening, had a great time talking to you. I just really hope you didn't no-show someone else to stay on with me. Because at the end of the day, while I'm appreciative of that, if I was on the receiving end of that, I'm getting no-showed because my interviewee is on with someone bigger or perceived as more important, I wouldn't like that. I don't know if that's what happened. I really don't. But a chat that I was told was only going to take 20 minutes took 50. Now, again, Boomer, I had a great time talking to you, okay? I appreciate the time. And I promise you, the person on the other end of the microphone, you're going to love hearing this interview. It's just kind of interesting how the sausage gets made. So while I'm on the subject of New York baseball, I guess that's what I'll talk about. The Yankees were off yesterday. They were presumably flying down to Tampa Bay. So I'm going to start with Marlins Mets. The Mets' home opener. Fans in attendance for the first time in a year and a half. And it seemed like this was going to be another case of the Mets bats wasting a great pitching performance. Taijuan Walker goes 6 innings, only gives up 2 runs. Miguel Castro is good in his inning. Trevor May is good in his inning. Edwin Diaz is good in his inning. But it's the bottom of the 9th, and the Mets are down 2-1. Anthony Bass comes in. He's the Marlins closer. He's on my fantasy team. Oh my God, do I need bullpen help? First batter he faces is Jeff McNeil. Home run. I'll fast forward a little bit. It's bases loaded, 1 out. Michael Conforto up. 2 strike count. Bass grazes Conforto on the right elbow pad. It barely touched it. So ball game over, Mets win. You think it's that simple? No, if it was, I wouldn't be talking about it. For starters, Michael Conforto leaned in over the plate. You cannot do that. That is illegal. If you see a ball bearing in on you and it's going to hit you, you need to do everything in your power to get out of the way. If you want to turn into it, so it hits your back or your back side, as opposed to your front, that's okay. That's self-preservation. No one begrudges you for that. But you cannot lean into a pitch so that it hits you. But to make matters worse, it was a strike. Conforto leaned in over the plate. That's a strike. Anthony Bass threw a strike. It should have been bases loaded, 2 out, Pete Alonso coming up. Instead, ball game over, Mets win. The rule is, if you get hit by a strike, the strike supersedes the HBP. But okay, Ron Culpa got it wrong. That's what we have replay for, right? No. Somehow, we've made everything else reviewable, except that. How is that not reviewable? 24 hours ago, if you had asked me, is that reviewable, I would have said yes. The issue isn't, did it hit Conforto? It did, okay? It grazed his elbow. Oh my God, rush him to a hospital. But still, that's an HBP. The issue is, was he leaning into the pitch? Which again, is illegal. And the pitch that hit Conforto was a strike, which should have resulted in bases loaded, 2 out for Pete Alonso. Now let me say this. If this had happened on a no strike count or a 1 strike count, I'm not sure what would have been different. I know that if Conforto had been hit by a strike, just get back in the batter's box. But if it's determined that Conforto leaned into the pitch, I'm not sure if he can be called out or not. I don't think he can, but I don't know. Is that some kind of an interference? I don't know. I honestly don't know. I mean, what made it worse was Ron Culpa saying after the fact, yeah, I got it wrong. He got hit by a strike. That's not what you want to hear if you're a Marlins fan. You know, it's one thing if you're going to get the call wrong. That's a tough call to make live time. But that's what replay's there for. How on earth is that not reviewable? Did he get hit by a strike? Forget the leaning into it. That's not the big issue here. The big issue is, did he get hit by a strike? I understand that could be considered a little bit of a gray area, because in essence you're reviewing balls and strikes. But that's not really reviewing balls and strikes. No one's asking for you to do that for a pitch that's on the outside corner. We're asking for you to review whether this batter got hit by a strike. Something that you never see and something that should be reviewable. You can review whether the batter got hit or not. What you can't review, evidently, is whether he got hit by a strike or not. I mean, I understand that a win's a win, and the Mets have certainly had a couple tough losses to open up the season. The bullpen blows the great DeGrom start on opening day. What else is new? And then on Wednesday, the arch rival, Philadelphia Phillies, blow you out. But I gotta tell you, leaving Citi Field, if I was a Mets fan, I'd have a bad taste in my mouth. Is that how I want to win my home opener? On a missed call that should have been reviewable? I'm not saying that the win is tainted, it's not. The Mets are now in second in the NL East. Good for them. But that's a bad job by Ron Culpa to not catch that. At the end of the day, that is his job. Granted, it's tough to see it live time, but still, that's his job, and he didn't do it. He'd be the first person to tell you that. And that's a bad job by Major League Baseball to not make that reviewable. I thought it was. I mean, give the Mets broadcasters credit for basically saying that left a bad taste in their mouths. Gary Cohen, Ron Darling, and Keith Hernandez. They do a great job. They always do. Very impartial. And I'll say this, I saw some people bring up the old Derek Jeter clip. He got hit by Chad Qualls when Qualls was a Ray on his first pitch out of the bullpen. Jeter makes like he got hit in the hand. It actually hit the knob of the bat. And people are saying, oh, Jeter does it, it's gamesmanship. Conforto does it, and it's World War III. See, I don't mind Conforto leaning in. You know, it's tough, right? Because on the one hand, it is against the rules. You're not supposed to do it. On the other hand, that can win the game for your team. I mean, there have been some instances where I've been watching a Yankees game. Big moment in the game, a pitch bears inside. And I say, why did you get out of the way of that? Just turn into it. Or let it hit you, something like that. Is it against the rules? Yes, but at the end of the day, it's all about having your team win. So I don't begrudge Conforto for not getting out of the way. Alright, he leaned into it. He wanted the game-winning RBI. I get that. I'm not begrudging Conforto. In fact, I'll even go the other way with it. When Jeter did that, I didn't like it. I remember watching that game. It was actually a nationally televised game. And saying, that's how you need to get on base? The first pitch of the at-bat, you know what hits the knob of the bat? And you're going to make like Chad Qualls just broke one of your fingers? I mean, come on. What are we doing here? That wasn't a game-winning situation. At the end of the day, get the win at all costs. The Jeter thing wasn't a game-winning situation. It was a big moment in the game, but it wasn't bottom of the ninth, bases loaded, game tied at 2. So I'm not begrudging Conforto. I'm begrudging Ron Culpa for missing that it was a strike, and Major League Baseball for not having this thing reviewable. I guess I'll say this. The Mets have been on the receiving end of a lot of bad losses. Too many to go through. I guess they're due for a gifted win. Moving on now to Red Sox Orioles. A game that featured a couple really nice moments. No, not the Red Sox winning. That's never nice. But it was nice to see Eduardo Rodriguez back on a major league mound. If you don't remember when Major League Baseball reconvened last year to start the 60-game season, Eduardo Rodriguez got the coronavirus. and he suffered some really bad side effects to it, namely myocarditis, which is a very serious heart ailment. The guy couldn't pitch last year. He didn't opt out or anything. He wanted to play. He just couldn't because of his myocarditis. And then when he came back for spring training this year, he had a little bit of a dead arm. He was going to start opening day, but instead Nathan Eovaldi got the start. Look, even though I hate the Red Sox with a burning passion, I'm going to be pulling for Erod this year. I'm not saying I want him to get wins. He can do a DeGrom thing. Go 7 innings every start. Don't give up any runs, but then the bullpen can blow it. Alright? Let the Red Sox lose, but let Erod pitch well. Unfortunately, the Red Sox won yesterday 7-3. Rodriguez did pitch well, 5 innings, 3 runs. He also had 7 strikeouts. Trey Mancini played his first game at Camden Yards since he was diagnosed with colon cancer. Orioles fans gave him a standing ovation, very classy. It was nice to see Erod back on the mound and Mancini back in the box in Camden Yards. It's very easy to get behind them. Moving on now to Royals White Sox and Lance Lynn pitching the first complete game and shutout in the majors this year. He pitched a 5-hitter as the White Sox beat the Royals 6-0. Give Tony La Russa a lot of credit. It didn't matter that Lynn hadn't thrown an ungodly amount of pitches. A lot of managers would have gone to the bullpen. They're like kids on Christmas. They can't wait to unwrap those presents. But no, La Russa's an old school manager. And I respect that because I'm from the old school too. Okay, I agreed with this decision 100%. Send Lynn back out there. It's 6-0. You know it means something to Lynn to get the complete game shutout. You know it means something to the fans that saw their team trade for him. Big move in the offseason. He's going to help us win the AL Central. You know, Lynn wanted to do it. No pitcher ever wants to come out of a game. It was the right decision by La Russa. Obviously, it paid off. I understand if it was a 1-run game, maybe you go to the pen. But even then, that's dicey. I'd like to have Lynn start the inning and then go batter to batter in that case. But La Russa didn't need to deal with that. Lynn was efficient all game. I know it's early, but I've been really impressed with the White Sox. They had the bad loss a couple nights ago because La Russa mismanaged the bullpen. He even said as much. You know what? It's early in the season. La Russa is still really getting to know his personnel. If you're going to make those mistakes, make them in April. The White Sox are going to be a tough team to deal with all year. Let me tell you. You've got Lynn pitching really well. Rodon pitching really well. Luis Robert looks really good. Nick Madrigal has been good. Yerman Mercedes has come out of nowhere and looks like the second coming of Frank Thomas. I understand he's only played 6 games, but still, he's hitting .556. He's leading the majors in hits right now. Okay, no one had ever heard of this guy before he made the team on opening day. And now he's in the lineup regularly, and he's hitting the cover off the ball. Give him credit. The White Sox are going to be a fun team this year. I'm very confident in saying that they're going to win the AL Central, like I said a little over a week ago. Alright, now I'll give you some NHL Valk talk. And I'll start with the Canucks signing Tanner Pearson to a 3-year deal worth $9.75 million. So instead of the Canucks trading him, since he was a pending UFA, they're gonna keep him around for a while. And I don't mind it. I like Tanner Pearson. I understand that he's having a disappointing year this year. Only 11 points in 33 games. He's usually the kind of guy who you can expect to get like 40 points and play really good defense. He's a very good defensive forward. Very good playoff performer. Obviously, he won the Stanley Cup in 2014 with the Kings. He's a very durable player, never gets hurt. It's a little interesting that the Canucks would choose to double down on him. I did think he would be traded. But hey, if you can convince Pearson to sign a reasonable long-term extension, which is what this is, $3.25 million per year is very fair for him. I don't mind it. Good job by the Canucks. It's surprising, there's no question, but it makes sense. Alright, now I'll give you some NFL Valk talk. And just indulge me for a moment as I talk about the Jets. Because Joe Douglas did make a couple moves yesterday, none as splashy as trading Darnold, but still, I want to talk about him. He brought back Bennett Jackson, who only played 1 snap last year. And the year before that, he only played 27 snaps for the Ravens. And he brought in Corey Levin. Levin only has 140 snaps to his name. All of them came with the 18 Titans, meaning that despite the fact that he hasn't played in 2 years, and despite the fact that Bennett Jackson basically has no NFL experience, Douglas is welcoming them to the Jets. I mean, look, I don't want to kill these guys. God only knows what Jackson's gonna do. I'm not writing him off. The Jets did need to add another safety, so you want to bring in Bennett Jackson. I really don't have much of a problem with it. And there's no question that the Jets could use some help at backup center. I don't think anyone really trusts Jimmy Murray. And I'll say this about Levin, okay? If you're a backup offensive lineman, you've got to be able to play multiple positions. Levin can. He's actually played every offensive line position in the NFL except right tackle. That's impressive. Alright, I don't mind the Jets bringing Levin in. I don't have a problem with them bringing back Jackson. What I have a problem with is Douglas ignoring the glaring holes on this team. Did they need a backup safety? Yes. Did they need a backup center? Yes. But those aren't their biggest needs. It's not even close. I mean, come on. I wish it was that simple. They need corners yesterday. How has Brian Poole not been brought back? How is Richard Sherman not a Jet? How is Darqueze Dennard not a Jet? The pass rush could use a little bit of help. Bring in Clowney, bring in Vernon, bring in Ingram. Everyone's saying that the Jets need to beef up the offensive line. I agree with that. It's not their most urgent need, but it is a need. You've got 2 Super Bowl winners in free agency. They didn't win it this past year, but the year before they did, Austin Ritter and Mitchell Schwartz. It just bothers me that the Jets are ignoring these holes. If you were to tell me right now that the Jets are going to address all these holes in the draft, okay, I'd feel a little bit better about that. But I'm skeptical. Look, I'm jaded. I'm a jaded Jets fan. There's no question. I mean, there's no question that the Jets have the picks necessary to build through the draft. They have 5 picks through the first 86 picks in this draft. So after you take Zach Wilson, you can take a couple corners, beef up the edge rush, and draft some offensive linemen. You can do that, okay? I understand that that's very possible. It's just that I'm getting John Idzik flashbacks. In 2014, the Jets went into the draft with a ton of holes. None of them were filled. The Idzik 12 live on in the annals of Jets history in infamy. I'm trying to remain positive because it's very easy for Douglas to address these holes in the draft. If that's his plan, fine. It can be executed. It's just tough for me to slam my fist on the table and say Douglas will fill those holes in the draft. Also, speaking of the draft, when I was talking about the Darnold trade, I said that the Panthers traded the 227th overall pick. It's actually the 226th overall pick. Tankathon got it wrong. So is there a big difference between 226 and 227? The answer is no, but still, it's worth clarifying. In exchange for Darnold, the Jets got the Panthers' second rounder next year their 4th rounder next year, and the 226th overall pick this year, which is in the compensatory portion of the 6th round. And speaking of quarterbacks, according to Ian Rappaport of NFL.com, this report came out the other day. I just didn't talk about it, but since I'm down the Jets rabbit hole now, I might as well. The Jets met with Brian Hoyer yesterday. The Jets do need a veteran backup. If you don't want to throw Zach Wilson into the fire right away, which is something that the Jets have done a lot, and it's failed, start a veteran for a little bit. Hoyer would fit that mold. Robert Saleh knows him. Hoyer was a Niner in 2017 when Saleh was the defensive coordinator. Mike LaFleur, the Jets' offensive coordinator, in 2017, he was the 49ers passing game coordinator and wide receivers coach. So there's familiarity there. I don't mind it. I don't mind the Jets bringing in Hoyer. That would make sense. Not as good as Alex Smith, but I'll take Hoyer. If it happens, I'd be fine with it. Alright, here's my interview with Ron Blomberg. You're listening to the Jacob Valk Show. I'm Jacob Valk, and I'm fortunate enough to be joined by Ron Blomberg, the author of The Captain and Me, On and Off the Field with Thurman Munson. Ron, how are you?
Jacob, it's great to be able to talk to you. It's living down in Atlanta now and talking to my fans up in New York and all the fans up in New York, and baseball starting. The Yankees going to, it looks like they might be a fairly decent team this year, so it's going to be fun.
Yes, it is. I'm looking forward to a long baseball season after the 60-game joke we had last year. So,
well, that's true, Jacob.
Yeah. So, when did you and Munson really become close friends? Was it your first interaction? Was it a few interactions later? How about that? Let me hear.
Well, Jacob, basically, I was the number 1 draft pick in '67 by the Yankees. He was the number 1 draft pick by the Yankees in '68. I was coming out of high school. He was coming out of college up in Kent State. And we just hit it off. When we were down in spring training, and let me see, it was 1970, and we became very, very good friends. He looks at me as, he hasn't seen many Jews before, and him living and being from Canton, Ohio, I mean, there's not too many Jews out there. So no. We became very, very close friends. And, when we did a lot of stuff, he loved to fish, he loved to play golf, and we did all that in spring training, and we just became friends. I mean, it was just, I'm a very outgoing guy, and Thurman was more of an introverted type of guy, and we just hit it off. And I guess when we did things together, I mean, it was so much fun. It was, it was great friends at first sight.
Okay, I like that. I was going to say love at first sight, but that would be kind of weird.
I don't want to say love at first sight. No, it's great friends at first sight.
I like that. That's really good. So when people hear the name Ron Blomberg, they think of the year 1973. 1973 is an important year in not just baseball history, but Yankees history, because that's when George Steinbrenner bought the team. What did you and Munson think when CBS, who were horrible owners for the Yankees, didn't put a dime into the team, sold the Yankees to Steinbrenner?
We thought it was great because, we just started just to come out of our shell a little bit. We started getting a few players by trades, and we had some guys coming up from the minor league system. But unfortunately, CBS looked at us as just a business proposition, as a write-off. And that's what they looked at the New York Yankees. And you could tell by the attendance where the Yankees had like 8 to 10 to 12,000 people rather than 60,000 people when they had their great teams. And when we found out that George purchased the team, we had no idea who he was, of course. And so, I mean, when he came down, when they purchased the team, he came down with his minority owners, and he introduced himself, introduced his partners, a few of them, because I think there was like 30, 40 partners that he had, buying a small piece of the Yankees. But, he was incredible. I mean, we knew that he was a sports fan, but we didn't know to that extent because we didn't know that he coached in college. I mean, he did some coaching for the University of Michigan in football. He was big with baseball down at University of Florida. He was very, very well known throughout the college because he gave a lot of money to quite a few, well, not quite a few college teams. And when he came down, he introduced himself to everybody, and he said, whatever it takes for us to bring back a winner to the New York Yankees and the fans in New York, I'm going to do it. And that's what he's done. That's what he did. And he was the toughest guy, owner, that I have ever seen. He would love you one minute, he would hate you one minute. But it came down to, if you gave him 120%, this guy would do anything in the world for you. He was like a second father to me and Thurman. He did a lot of stuff for us. He got on us quite a bit. We always hustled for him. But, unfortunately, if you are in a slump, and if there's a man on third base, if you didn't bring the guy in to win a ball game or to tie the ball game or to make it close, I mean, you don't know. You're a little bit nervous to go in the clubhouse. You don't know if you're going to be released or not. So, but that was the type of guy he was. But we didn't care. I mean, he was a very, very, very aggressive person. He was a guy that will give his shirt off his back. He would give money. I mean, he's given, after people's career was over with, he had like 12 or 13 people on the payroll, and people didn't understand that. But he wanted to do something for the Yankee fans. He wanted, like I said, he wanted to bring back a championship to the Yankees and also to the fans in New York, and that's what he did.
When did you and Munson first realize that he wasn't going to be the absentee owner that he said he was going to be, that he was going to be King George?
Well, basically when he was at the games every single day, and he jumped down our ass every single day after the ball game if you lose a ball game. He was a guy that will come up to you, and he's not believe me, he's not a type of guy that he's afraid to say what's on his mind. And he would say it in front of writers and TV people, but he was not afraid to say anything. We knew that he wasn't going to be an absentee owner by, he's looking at every move we made out on the field. If we needed a haircut, the next day it'd be a note to come down. He would have his barber come to the stadium and cut people's hair. And so, he was a hands-on guy. But, hey, here's another example with the Mets, Steve Cohen. Here's a guy that, I don't know too much about him. I know that he has very, very deep pockets like George did, and he was a major, big baseball and Met fan. And he's going to be a hands-on type of guy too. But, with the guys nowadays, you pay these guys so much money. You got to be hands-on. And
right.
with us, we had one-year contracts. People don't realize that we made no money. I remember in 73, Jacob, that I hit 329, and he gave me a $500 raise. And then the next year, I hit 311. They took my $500 back. And then next year, I hit 301. They wouldn't even talk a raise to me. So, I mean, it was not easy on our day, because we had one-year contracts.
You had the reserve clause.
Oh, yeah. We didn't have anything. I mean, and then we had, free agency came in existence, of course. But when we had a one-year contract, I mean, you're afraid to get injured. If you get injured, if you get sent down to the minor leagues, it might be like Wally Pipp and Lou Gehrig. So
right.
if you get sent down to the minor leagues, it's a very poor chance that you're going to get called back up to the big team. So you got to, I mean, and if you didn't do well, it's now, most of the guys got 3, 4, 5-year contracts, and some of them have 10-year contracts.
Right.
We had one-year deals. If we didn't have a good year, we don't know if we're going to get a big league contract. So, I mean, it was not easy. I mean, it was not easy. And I'm not saying it's easy now, but it's easy now when you have a 5-year deal. When you got a 4.
Now.
Yeah, you got a 4-year slump, and then you come back your last year to your 5th year, your last year in your contract. You have a great year, and they'll give you another 3 years. So we did not have that, but I'm happy that we got it for these players. I'm happy that Marvin Miller came into our lives with Donald Fair, and we got the free agency, of course, but nobody knew that we would get these guys this much money. That, when George bought the Yankees, he bought the Yankees for $9.9 million. And, you look at some of these guys could buy the whole league, when we played. So it's totally changed. The whole game of athletics is totally changed, but I would not take my years being with the Yankees and the Yankee fans and what type of fans that we had for nothing in the world.
All right, good. I like to hear that. So, did Munson give you any advice before you became the first ever DH?
No, nobody had any idea what the DH was, to be honest with you. We thought it was a joke. We thought it was just a designated pinch hitter. We thought it was a glorified pinch hitter. But, I mean, they had it. They adapted it in 72, but they put it in force in 73. But nobody had any idea what it was, to be honest with you. I mean, the pitchers, not the best hitters in the world, of course. But when the DH came out, I pulled a hamstring down in spring training. 4 days we were supposed to break camp. And I remember Dick Howson, Elston Howard, and Whitey Ford came up to me and asked me, Ralph Valk was the manager, of course, and pulled a hammy, and I did not play the last 3 games down there. And they asked, did I want to get put on the disabled list? I said, absolutely not. I said, wrap me up like a mummy, and I'll go out and coming up to Boston with you, and I'm going to play. So that's what I did, to be honest with you. I mean, and then they put me in as a DH, and I became the first DH. I had no idea what that meant. Nobody knew what it was. We thought it was going to be in existence for 6 months, and then there's going to be a change. But then look at it now. It's 48 years later. It's one of the highest paid positions in the game of baseball. And now the worst part, the owners are the dumb ones. They can't make a decision about having a universal DH, but they can have a decision about having a guy at second base in extra innings. They can have 2 7-inning games, and you mean they cannot make a decision about the DH? universal. And the worst part about it, to be honest with you, you look at a lot of pitchers, unfortunately, when they have to play the National League in the National League towns, a lot of these guys will pull muscles. Look what happened to, what's his name?
Chien-Ming Wang.
Yeah, look what happened to him. He was out, I think he was on the DL for 4 months?
Something like that.
Yeah, but a lot of pitchers. But to be honest with you, the pitchers nowadays, they can't hit. Because in Little League, you got a DH. High school baseball, you got a DH. College baseball, you got a DH. 95% of the minor league systems, you got a DH. And these guys, most of these pitchers, they never even picked up a bat before. And they're going to go up there and swing. It's, they don't bunt anymore. They don't sacrifice anymore. They don't have a suicide squeeze anymore.
It's terrible.
It's terrible. I don't know how you like the game of baseball, but I don't like how the game of baseball has.
No, the game is worse today than it was 10 or 15 years ago. There's
absolutely.
About that.
Oh, absolutely. Because what it is it became a home run and a strikeout. The managers, it's nothing. I mean, it's no strategy at all. I mean, it's when they hit a home run, they flip the bat 25 feet up in the air and they jump it all around the bases. And let me tell you something. I had Louis Tiant on my Zoom a few days ago, and Louis should be in the Hall of Fame. I'm just telling you. And he would knock these guys down. And Bob Gibson, Jim Palmer, Catfish Hunter, Gaylord Perry, Steve Carlton, they'll knock these guys down. But but these guys, they'll hit a home run, stay in the batter's box, and watch the ball go out 20, 30 feet over the fence, okay? Then they get their bat, they flip it up in the air, they're running around the bases, they got their hat off, and then they get the home plate, they jumping up. I mean, that's, I don't know. I don't like that. I hate to tell you, if I was a pitcher, and a pitcher nowadays cannot knock these guys down. Hey, when Reggie used to hit in front of me, when he used to hit a home run, sometimes Reggie would actually stand in the batter's box and watch because he wants to see how far it went. But I knew that I was going to get decked. And every time after the game, I said, Reggie, don't do that. I'm going to get decked. These guys are going to drill me in my head. I said, don't do that. He said, but I had to watch, see how long it goes like that. I said, no, you don't. A home run is a home run. It's a home run, it's a home run. These guys, nowadays, hitting the home run is not just hitting the home run. They do all this, the velocity, this arch thing, see how far it goes like that. A home run is a home run. The name of the game of baseball, Jacob, the name of the game of baseball is to win games, or is to score runs, okay? But, now what they do is if you look at both teams and if you add up the strikeouts, most of the teams will have 20, 23, 24 strikeouts in a game.
Right.
And, and if you look at Sanchez, okay, here's a prime example. And I've talked about him in my Facebook. And when I saw him when he was 16 years old down in spring training, and this guy could hit. This guy didn't understand hitting, but he was a pure natural hitter. Hit everything to left center, to right center.
He did something in the game the other day that would tick you off. He lollygagged it running out of the box and nearly cost the Yankees a run.
Absolutely. I'm George Steinbrenner. If he saw that, he would destroy the guy. That's what happened to Robinson Cano. And when Robinson Cano was having all the problems running down the first base, and you're making $100 million, and you can't run down the first base?
I know.
Name a game of baseball is, number one, hey, when you put that Yankee pinstripes on, when you wear that blue and white, when you put the pinstripes, hey, that is very holy. And, that means an awful lot. And, and when you play in Yankee Stadium in front of Yankee fans, if you're on the road, you got Yankee fans all across the country watching the games. You don't, not run to first base or, but nowadays, if you get to first base, you can't break up a double play and, go into second base. You got to go out to like center field and you can't run and hit the catcher. See, it'd be very difficult for me to be able to play in this game now. Okay, number one, I love to run in and break up a double play because when you break up a double play, your manager is on that front step is giving you a high five. He said, "Great job." And you know what? That means an awful lot when your manager says something to you, okay? That's number one. And running into a catcher, okay, and not trying to avoid his tag, you're trying to knock that ball out so you could score, and that run might mean that ball game to you.
Right.
So, it's awful lot. It's a tough, hey, these guys are making so much money. You pitch for 4 innings as starters. They don't care how many innings that they pitch. They don't care about their one-loss record. They don't care. Look at the ERA anymore. Everything has totally changed. But having a Doubleday, what he's doing, he's rolling around in his grave because he knows the game of baseball is going to change one day. I'm just telling you. When they have an umpire, and I know I'm talking too long, but I'm frustrated with it because now when they have robotics, maybe call balls and strikes, it's a video baseball game now. It's a video game.
There is something to be said about the human element.
When you're making so much money, I understand, but, we'd made like $1,000 a month. And back then, that was a lot of money. There was a lot of money to us. But people didn't realize that most of the guys had, 2 jobs. And I was very, very lucky to live in New York because I lit everybody's, all the Jewish candles for bar mitzvahs. And I did every Hebrew. And I was a designated Hebrew. And the good part about it, I was related to every Jewish kid out there. I was a role model to them. But, I feel very, very good about that. You were my father's favorite player. Well, I appreciate that. I was a role model, and I want to live up to being a role model. And I'm very proud to be Jewish. I'm very proud to have not played on Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. I was very, very proud to know the Reforms and the Conservatives and the Orthodox. I was very, very proud to meet all the kids, and even if they didn't know me, but even if they found out about me, I became a role model. And to this day, I'm very, very proud of that. And that makes me feel extremely successful.
Talking to Ron Blomberg, the author of The Captain and Me, on and off the field with Thurman Munson. So what did you and Munson think when Steinbrenner ushered in the start of free agency by signing Catfish Hunter and later Reggie Jackson?
Oh, with Catfish, that was a no-brainer right there, coming from Oakland and, winning, having, with Charlie Finley and that staff at Vita Blue and Blue Moon Odom and Kenny Holzman and Catfish Hunter and Raleigh Fingers. You're talking about prime pitchers right there. And when we had an opportunity to get Catfish, we knew that he's a potential 20-game winner every single year, even with our team. And when George got Catfish as a free agent, number one, he was a wonderful, great guy, and I loved him to death. And he came from Hereford, North Carolina. And the funny part about it is his scout scouted me, and but we had a lot of things in common. Being from the South, he loved golf, he loved to fish, he loved Southern food, and we had a lot in common. And when we were Thurman and Catfish became extremely close because I became very close. Of course, Thurman and I extremely close. We were like roommates for almost 5 years. And when Catfish came over, it was like a no-brainer. We did so many things together. I mean, so it was wonderful. And our wives was very close when we lived in the city. And during the off season, we did an awful lot of things together. And so it was a marriage in sight, and and that's what it was. And he was a wonderful teammate, and I'm very much involved in ALS. And when he passed away, it was devastating for us, our team, and the game of baseball lost one of the greatest human beings in the world.
No question about that. Couple years later, Steinbrenner went out and signed Reggie Jackson. What did you and Munson think when that happened?
Well, Reggie's a little bit different than Catfish.
Definitely.
Reggie, Reggie was Reggie. Catfish was more of a laid-back guy, where Reggie was more of a guy that he was amped up with like 1,000 horsepower. And when Reggie came over, Reggie was, very voiceful in Oakland. But Oakland's a lot different, of course, than New York. And when he came over, when he became a free agent, him and Thurman got into a little bit difference. And that's why, my book, when people read my book, they'll understand the Reggie and the Thurman. But at the end, they became friends. And Thurman was our captain. He was our real captain. Reggie, he was like their captain over in Oakland. But unfortunately, and I will tell you right now, I love Reggie. Reggie's always been great to me, but Reggie could never carry Thurman's jock. And Thurman was a tough guy. Thurman was a leader. Thurman was a guy that, when you read my book, and I'm not trying to get off the subject, Jacob, but the book, hey, I'm very proud.
I read your book. I really like your book.
I really, it's in the top 25 books now. And Amazon is going to...
It should be in the top 1.
Well, I appreciate that. It's a wonderful, wonderful book, because I don't know if you have... Your father maybe told you about the movie Bang the Drum Slowly. Did you ever see that movie?
Truthfully, no.
Okay, that's way before your time. But if you asked your father about... How old is your father?
He is 57.
57. I'm 72. So he would know Bang the Drum Slowly, probably. Or, if you have an opportunity, go on YouTube and get the you will love it, because it's Thurman and I was actually in the movie, and it was filmed in Yankee Stadium. It was about two guys, that one guy was a pitcher and one guy was a catcher, and the catcher was dying. And they became roommates. They became best friends. And that's what Thurman and I did. We're roommates. We became best friends. And unfortunately, he passed away in the plane crash. And unfortunately, he did not get to where he should be in the Hall of Fame. And I'm doing everything I possibly can to get him into the Hall of Fame. But getting back to Reggie, nobody could ever, and there's nobody has ever been a better captain. I'm just telling you, a better captain, a leader than Thurman Munson, because he was that type of guy. He was the type of guy that when Billy Martin was a manager and Ralph Houck was a manager, these managers did never, ever have to say anything to Thurman. They really never even have to go to the pitcher's mound. When Thurman knew when a pitcher is out of gas. he knew when a pitcher did not have it. But let me tell you something. But when Thurman had a, talk-to-talk, heart-to-heart talk with an individual, he would just get down dirty, and he would just get into his face, and you knew right off the bat who was a C on his uniform, and that starts for captain, and that's what he was. And that's what this book is. This book is not just a baseball book. This book is a human interest book. It's what we did on the field, off the field, and we became brothers, and that's what it became.
On that point of captaincy, what went through Munson's mind when Jackson said that he was the straw that stirred the drink and that Munson could only stir it bad?
Well, it's probably, and, I remember when that happened. I remember when the papers took it and they ran with it. And Thurman and the guys on our team was not too happy because, you come over from another team where a guy is as strong as Thurman was as a captain, and you try to take over his leadership, and you couldn't do it because he gained the leadership of everybody. Everybody
everybody loved Thurman. There's no question.
They loved Thurman, but they respected Thurman more than loving Thurman. Forget the loving part of it and whatever. Whenever you have a team, you got to have I think a real good team, you got to have a captain, and you got to respect that captain. And that's what people did. That's what, you can have 20 great ball players, but you got to have 20 good ball players that have heart.
Hey, Ron, let me tell you, the Yankees don't have a captain right now. Since Jeter left, they haven't had a captain. They haven't won a World Series. I think there's a correlation there. What do you think about that?
Oh, sure, you can see that. You can see that. I thought that the captain would be CC, but he was on his I think he's probably the closest guy that was a captain that I met. I knew Tino.
I think they want it to be Judge. He just needs to stay on the field.
Yeah, Aaron is, okay, I'll talk, he's, people ask me about Aaron. Aaron is a ball player, and you have to look at this. How they do their training now is a lot different from what we did. When we played, I remember what David Cone said to us. David Cone, of course, the pitcher for the Yankees, and, a broadcaster with Michael Kay. And I was up and doing a promo with David up in the press box. And he said, Bloomy, he said, have you ever seen a fat guy pull a muscle? And I said, no. I said, not really. He said, look at Babe Ruth. Look at, all these guys that have, they're not fat. You look at CeCe. When CeCe was, a little bit heavy, but he pitched with that weight. And then when he lost his weight, he started pulling muscles. Am I right?
You know what? I never thought about that, but there's something there.
Something there. Okay. Look at Aaron. Okay, here's a guy that I think he went to Long Beach State or Fullerton Beach or Fullerton or whatever out in California. Okay, out in California. And he was 6'7", 275, 280 pounds, and he was huge.
Be a basketball player.
Oh yeah, he's big. He was big. But then they made him. They made ball players, baseball players, into models that they could put on uniforms, and they could see their big arms and big legs. And if you look at Aaron, okay, I'm taking for an example, the swing that he hit his home run. I don't know if you didn't even notice that. I saw it. Okay, when he hit that ball pretty good to left field. Okay, the other night. Okay, he hit the ball the other night, but he cringed a little bit. I don't know if you saw that. He cringed because he turned on the ball so well, But when you turn on the ball, you don't use you use your body. You use your what they call obliques. I never even knew what oblique was till a few years ago. Never knew what it was. Never heard of it. In our age, we never pull muscles like that. But he pulled that. He pulled his oblique, and you use your oblique. You use your hips, and you use your legs. Just like a pitcher does the same thing. A pitcher, when he throws, you don't want him to throw with all arms. When you throw with all arms, are you putting so much pressure on that arm?
Right.
You got to use your, you got to use your shoulder, and you got to use your legs. Okay. But when Aaron hit that home run, I said, uh-oh, I see something in that swing. If you want to go back to somebody, look at his home run a little bit. And after he hit that long home runs, he started coming up a little bit lame. And I think a couple innings later, I think, because I turned it off after that, okay, to be honest with you. And, he came out of the game. And I said, uh-oh. He came out of the game. He did not play in the last 3 or 4 games down in spring training. Why? They didn't say anything. They didn't want to he might have twinked it down there a little bit. And just a little bit. But when he turned on that ball right there, I think that really pulled it. Now, is he coming back? Yeah, I think he will. But once you start pulling, when you have, instead of 20% of fat, not fat, but when you have tissue, and coming down from 20% of that down to 6%, your body needs a cushion. It needs a cushion. When you swing, your muscles cannot just go from muscle to muscle. And that's what it did. He pulled his muscle so much that he doesn't have anything in between that muscle. Now, for that muscle to heal, it's not that easy to do.
So because no one knows more about baseball injuries than you, what can Judge do to stay on the field more often?
I don't know, to be honest with you, because he's so big. And he swings so hard.
Part of being great is staying healthy. At the end of the day, you think of the great Yankees of old, those guys didn't get hurt. I mean, Mantle did, but that was a different issue. Most of the greats didn't get hurt as much as Judge. It's really upsetting.
I totally agree with you, because he has all the ability in the world. Number one, he has a good baseball mind. He knows how to play baseball. He's a very good.
I'll tell you right now, my most prized possession is an Aaron Judge foul ball that I later got him to sign. I love Judge. No one loves Judge more than me.
Oh, yeah. No. I'm telling you, he's number one, he's a wonderful guy. Because every time I go down to Yankee Old Timers Day, you meet all these guys from Sanchez to CC to Judge, and they're wonderful, wonderful guys. Because the Yankees, when you put that Yankee pinstripes on, you're part of a family. And even though we played a lot of years before these guys, but we're part of a family. And that's what George brought into, and that's what Hal and Jennifer brought into the Yankee family. They still do. You got to be part of a family. But we're talking about Aaron now. What can he do? I don't know, to be honest, because he's so big and strong now. He's so big, and, when he pulls muscles, it's nothing you could do with the guys. When I pulled so many muscles when I played, and I never had all these modern technology, personal strength coaches. I never did any of that stuff. I just ran, and, we did construction down in Georgia, and I just got big and strong like that. But when you start lifting weights before and after a ball game, and, you look like Zeus out there, where every muscle is, you should go down to Newport Beach down in California, or all these southern coastal beaches where you just see muscle guys, and that's what these guys are. If you look at their arms, they're so big and strong. And with Aaron, when you're 6'7", is a lot different than somebody that's like 5'10", 5'11", 6 feet, and weighing 280 pounds. When you swing, that 280 pounds is going to it's just like you have a garage door opener. You know, when you have a garage door that opens up, you have a lot of torque on those springs, and when that breaks like that, you got to replace it. Now, what can he do? I don't know. They told me that he did less weight training than what he has done in the past. And now he's coming, with more injuries and stuff after, 6 or 7 more games. But he might have that down in spring training where they kept him out. I don't know, to be honest with you. But I have to look at that like all the fans. And like you said, to be a great superstar, you got to be healthy.
Talking to Ron Blomberg, the author of The Captain and Me, on and off the field with Thurman Munson. So what did you do when you found out that Munson died in a plane crash in one of the darkest days in Yankees history?
Well, my heart just fell out. When, my brother passed away. But, it's just not passing away by natural causes. Right. Doing something that, back then that was taboo. And, he did something what he wanted to do, and he loved flying, and he went back home to see Diana and his family. And he went back home, and to this day, I think about him all the time, and I got to do a engagement for doing something for Thurman Munson up in Canton, Ohio. I think it is in June, and we're flying into the airport where he crashed. But the worst part about it was when I found out about it, I could not fly up to see him. I could not drive up or take a train to see him. There was nothing available. Plus, there was no rooms available. And, it was very, very devastating to me. And I watched everything, of course. And, when you've been someone's close friend, just not a friend, but a close friend, and you knew their family, and you started your life together. You started your second lifehood from being from high school, and then college and to professional ranks. That's something that you have strived for your whole life, to be a professional ball player. And when you get drafted number 1, they expect a lot from you, like myself and like Thurman, and they did. And, myself, when I played, that's all I did was like getting injured and lost 2 years. And then I went to Chicago, but I didn't lose it by not running down to first base, or I didn't lose it by, lifting all the weights. I lifted it because I was so big and strong that I tore muscles. And, it's nothing that you can do. Yeah, it's nothing you can do, because the Yankees sent me down to the New York Ballet to stretch. People didn't know that, but for 2 years they sent me down to the New York Ballet. I didn't put no tutus on, anything like that. They,
I want to see pictures of that.
No, you would no. That would have been in the first. Thank God that they don't have cell phones, because somebody would have taken a cell phone picture and put that in the post of the Daily News or the New York Times. Of course they would have done that, I know. But I did not have that, to be honest with you. But they sent me down there during the off season, and I stretched. I never touched my toes before in my whole life until I started doing the ballet, and I started getting a little bit better. But then all of a sudden I run into a fence down in spring training, tore my knee all apart. My kneecap was completely ripped out, and my meniscus and my ACL and my MCL. And so then I ripped my shoulder. I had a bicepial tendonitis. That my tendon was completely ripped away from the bone, and unfortunately they did not have scoping back then where they could actually go into your with a scope. They actually had to cut muscle to muscle, but I had Dr. Job and Dr. Curlin out in California, who was who did Tommy John surgery, and they did my surgery out in California. But hey, that was part of baseball, and unfortunately, but I'm living my dream now. It's something I'm doing now with this multimedia things. I've never done this before. I'm not with computers and stuff. I still got my flip phone I'm still talking to you on. I still got a calculator I still do my bills with, and I still got a rotary phone back in Georgia, back home. And that's me. That's me.
You want me to walk you through how I'm going to edit your interview together and post
I
it?
have no idea. No. I you know what? I've been doing so many Zooms lately, and it's really funny. The Daily News is doing a major feature on me next Sunday, right before, not this Sunday, but the next Sunday, right before the Captain and me coming out. And he was asking me about this and that, and can I scan a picture? I said, scan a picture. I said, I have to go down and go to UPS and go to get on what do you call it? Hey, hey, where you get paper out of,
Oh, like a printer?
Yeah, printer.
Okay.
I could talk all day long, but I forget a printer. Okay, but I thought you had to go down to UPS to go get a printer, and then let somebody do a photocopy of it and then send it to you. I had no idea how to do that stuff. I don't want to know. Both of my kids are doctors, okay? Both of my kids are doctors. I have no idea how to do any of that stuff. They try to give me one of these iPhones. Number one, I can't see the numbers, number one. Number two, I press the wrong numbers. I get so very frustrated. I have to get the iPhone. I throw it against the wall. And, I want my flip phone. If I see a number that is called, I don't know who they are, I won't answer it. If they leave me a message, if I don't know who they are, I erase it. That's all. But I never knew how to do text messages. I don't know how to do any of that stuff. My life is very simple now. I got a wonderful family. I'm doing Facebook. I'm meeting so many people on social media now. I got a successful book that's coming out on the 20th. I'm just telling you right now, not because I just wrote the book. I'm telling you honestly. You know who just called me up today? Who was one of my closest friends. My closest friend, but he'll tell you the way it is, was Marty Appel. And you probably heard of Marty Appel. And Marty and I, we started with the Yankees together. He called me up. He said, Bloomy, he said, I just read the book. He said it was great. I thought he was going to call me up to tell me all the problems I had in the book, to be honest with you.
There are no problems. It's a great book.
I know that.
I'm telling you.
Did your father read the book?
He's working through it. I finished it in a day.
Oh, don't tell people you finished it in a day.
I couldn't put it down. Ron, I couldn't put it down.
But wasn't it good? Wasn't it good? Tell me.
It was fantastic.
I had a great time with it. Let me tell you something.
No, let me tell you something. All right, I never lie on this show, okay? If I didn't like the book, I would tell you the book is terrible. Do not buy it. I wouldn't be talking to you. The book is fantastic.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. The people will love the book. They will love the book. They would find out, okay? They would find out what type of person Thurman Munson was and find out that he should be in the Hall of Fame. And I'm doing everything. The more copies that we sell, and right now, we already sold over 8,000 copies, and the book's not even out yet. And every book that goes out, the writers look at it, and they look at how popular he was. And I want him to be in the Hall of Fame, where he deserves, where he's going to go in with a big C, with his wife Diana and his son Mike, where he deserves to go into the Hall of Fame. And I'm doing everything I possibly can for him to go in.
Well, the main reason that Munson isn't in the Hall of Fame, and this is where I'll get you out, is because he went flying on August 2nd, 1979. If Munson didn't go flying on that day, what do you think he would have gone on to accomplish?
Oh, I mean, number one, he'd been first ballot Hall of Fame, of course, but, but we can't just think what if, because what if I didn't get injured? What if you hit a ball so hard and it hits the top of the fence and it comes back in rather than going out? You can't. It's what if. Okay, it is what it is now. I would tell you right now, he's a true Hall of Famer to me. The people that one reason because he didn't get his, I don't think his 10 years or whatever. They're talking about it, but I don't know how many years he got in, but he deserves to be in the. He got 11 years in, but he deserves to be in the Hall of Fame for what he did, and what he accomplished. And you just don't look at just number. You look at Bill Mazeroski, hits one home run in the World Series and got him in the Hall of Fame.
You want to hear something funny? My father thinks that Mazeroski should be in the Hall of Fame, but doesn't think that Munson should be in the Hall of Fame.
Okay, but that's okay. It's you know what? That's so good about athletics. They always say it's who's better, Mickey Mantle or Willie Mays, and people always talk about 50% of the people love the DH and 50% of the people hate it. But you know what?
What?
It's there. The DH is there. It's going to be there for the rest of baseball. Right. So you better start liking it. Anybody who's listening to this better start liking it.
Well, Giancarlo Stanton likes it. That's all that matters.
He better like it. I mean, he really doesn't have another position to play,
No, he doesn't. Ron, you're the best. Thank you so much for your time.
Wait a second. I want to tell people where to get the book.
Oh, sure.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Okay. I want the people, two things. If you get the book now, you could pre-order the book. You go to Amazon. That's number one, okay? And look up at the book or look at me. Or you could go to my website and I'll order it. Well, I have it and I'll sign it with the inscription that you want. It's Ron Blomberg. It's 1-0. Jacob, tell them it's just 1-0. It's not 2 O's. Ron Blomberg, Yankees.
He ran for president last year, this guy, okay? It's 1-0.
Yeah, but that was 2 O's. That's
why I'm saying it's 1-0 for you.
It's Ron Blomberg, Yankees.com. Go to it. You got to get the book. You'll love the book. I'm telling you. You'll love the book, Jacob.
Oh, I loved it. I just hope the listener loves it. Well, I know the listener will love it, Boomer. I'll tell you that.
Thank you very much. It was great talking with you, and talk to me anytime. And I got to take a Zoom right now. You have a wonderful – hey, Jacob, anything you need from me, you let me know. And your father, anything he needs from me, please don't hesitate to call me, okay?
I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Tell him to read the book. Don't just skim it. Read the book.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay.
Thanks, Jacob. Thanks, big guy.
That was Ron Blomberg. His book is The Captain and Me, On and Off the Field with Thurman Munson. Thanks for listening. Here comes the outro.
Thanks for the plug, Jacob from the past. It does mean a lot. Before I let you go, I've got some updates for you. On Monday, the regular episode of the Jacob Valk Show will be an NHL Trade Deadline show. I'm going to break down all the NHL trades that happen before the deadline. After that, I'm going to give the New York Islanders a grade for what they did at the trade deadline. Let's see if Lamoriello does anything else other than trading for Palmieri and Zajac. I think I saw somewhere that he has a little over $3 million to play with. April 19th. After that day's regular episode of the Jacob Valk Show, you're going to get a New York Yankees show. A few days later, April 22nd, the regular episode of the Jacob Valk Show will be the NFL Mock Draft Special. The second one done on this show. And you know that I don't do it alone. I've got one of the biggest football fans I know helping me out. You know him. You love him. Nick Ornberger will be joining me for that show. We're not just going to do the first round. Nick said he wanted to do more. He wanted to go 2 rounds. Admittedly, I've never done a 2-round NFL mock draft. But I was game for it. But I didn't want to stop there. If I'm going to extend it past the first round, let's go all in. The Jets have the 66th overall pick in this draft. That is the second pick of the 3rd round. So we'll be doing a mock draft for the first 66 picks. If you're unfamiliar with how we do things, go back to last year's NFL mock draft. It's not on YouTube, though. You'll have to go somewhere else for it. You know where you can find this show. But the rules are explained there, and I will explain them that day. April 29th is when the NFL draft officially gets underway. That morning, I'm going to give you a New York Jets draft preview. The Jets have 10 picks in this draft. I'm going to tell you what they should do with all 10 of them. The Monday after the draft is May 3rd. That morning, you're going to get a New York Jets draft recap where I react to what the Jets did in the NFL draft, and I'll give you my grade for their whole draft class. After that, you'll get a regular episode of the Jacob Valk Show. I will say this. Last year, the Friday after the first round, I went pick by pick, breaking down all 32 selections. And the Monday after the draft, I told you what caught my eye in days 2 and 3 of the draft. I'm not sure if that's what I'm going to do this year. Realize, last year was the pandemic. Nothing else going on. This year, there's baseball, there's hockey, there's basketball. Is it possible that I just focus on the NFL for those shows? The answer is yes, but I don't want to promise it. I'll leave you in suspense. How about that? Until next time, I am Jacob Valk saying that you could walk alongside a Tommy John pitch.